Hello everyone, welcome back to Reload Revelation, the show where we break down the news, talk about some guns, talk about some gear, and overall, have a good time. I'm your host, Ryan Souls, and thank you so much for tuning in again. If you like this content, do me a favor, ring that bell for notifications, subscribe. Now let's get into it. So the first story we got today is a rather good one. It turns out that a Chicago man stopped a robbery while he had his CPL, or concealed carry weapons permit, whichever you prefer, in the city of Chicago. Now, this guy was trying to rob the store, and this civilian looked around and said, hey, this might not be a good thing, so let's teach him a lesson. Used his weapon, shot the robber. The robber right now is in critical condition, and it's pending charges. Now, why am I telling you this? It seems like it's not, that big of a news story. It happens all the time, which it does, and it's unfortunate. But one of the things you have to remember is when you fire your weapon, no matter what you do, you're going to jail. Just until they figure everything out, you're going to jail. And that's why you need two things. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going to give you a little helpful advice. You're going to go to jail, no matter what you do. If it's lawful, they will deem it as lawful. If it's not, well, then you got some bigger issues on your hands. The best thing you can do is stay calm, stay collected, don't say anything. And if you have to say something, just say, I neutralize the threat, and I want my lawyer. You use your right to remain silent just so you don't incriminate yourself. And it just goes to show that, again, a good guy with a gun stopped a bad guy with a gun. Which I feel like a broken record saying this, but it's got to be said. And weirdly enough, Chicago with a concealed carry permit, I wonder how much that actually cost. So for the next story, the famous MTV host of Catfish, recently made a video on why we should have stricter laws when buying firearms. Now, we're going to take a look at this video in depth and kind of break it down and see, you get two breakdowns today. How about that?
How about we treat every young man who wants to buy a gun like every woman who wants to get an abortion? A mandatory 48-hour waiting period.
So he's calling for a 48-hour waiting period when purchasing a firearm. Okay, that's not allowed. That's unconstitutional. Now, why is it unconstitutional? Well, here's a hot take for you. You don't have to wait 48 hours to buy jewelry, buy food, nothing. It's just firearms. When you purchase a firearm, you undergo a federal background check. Now, usually that takes about maybe 20 minutes or so. And they go through your entire record and see if you have any felonies. And if the shop that you're at pings you for like, hey, you have, a car theft, well, they're not going to sell it to you because that's a felony. And then they would be breaking the law by selling you the gun. Makes sense. You don't need a 48-hour waiting period. Not to mention, it's unconstitutional.
Parental permission. A note from his doctor proving he understands what he's about to do.
Parental permission kinda, again, is a little weird. Because, if you're buying it for yourself, which I'm assuming that's what he's doing, is you have to be 18 and over for a rifle, 21 and over for a handgun. That's just in the state of Michigan. That's where I'm from. Parents' permission, you really... I guess if you're living in their house and they don't like guns and you want to purchase one, you got to talk with them. Again, that's, their right to refuse. However, they can't legally stop you or approve you with a consenting note. I'll be honest. If I had a consenting note buying my first gun, I'd be laughed at. I would be laughed at, I'd be bullied, and I would know why because, well, it doesn't make any sense. As far as a note from a doctor, again, it's unconstitutional. I'm pretty sure that violates some sort of HIPAA law. But it kind of ties into those red flag laws that people are trying to pass in other states where, if you could be ruled as dyslexic or having Asperger's or anything like that. Dyslexia, let's just take that for example, is classified as a mental illness. Thus, if these red flag laws were in place, or such laws were in place, that would bar you. Just because you can't, you flip letters around and whatnot, you have a learning disability, you are mentally ill. That is the same stance that people with gender dysphoria have. If you're dyslexic, you might as well be confused about your gender or your sex or whatever they want to call it, because they put you on the same playing field as that. You are mentally ill. That's what they're saying when they want a doctor's note.
A video he has to watch about the effects of gun violence, and an ultrasound wand up the ass just because.
Showing videos on gun violence, okay. I mean, if you want to watch those, hey, you have the full right to do that. However, are they just going to be hand-picked videos, or is it going to show the countless gang violence and drive-by shootings and murders of gang members, or is it just going to be cherry-picked for cis white men shooting up a random place? And if so, are you going to show Elijah Dickens, the Sutherland Springs shooting civilian that stopped the shooter with his own rifle? Or even, hey, even this Chicago guy, are you going to show that video? Are you going to show just the bad and none of the good? Or are you going to show the full thing in its full context? The ultrasound wand up the hoo-hoo. Yeah, that's, it sounds like a you problem, my guy. And wouldn't be surprised if they couldn't get it because your head's up there.
Let's make him walk through a gauntlet of people holding photos of loved ones who were shot to death and people who call him a murderer.
Pictures of people and yelling murderer while you're purchasing a gun. I've purchased guns. Never had the inclination to shoot anybody. Never had the inclination or thought to do great harm. Why? I don't want to go to prison for the rest of my life. Or worse, I don't want to go to the death penalty if the state that I'm in has the death penalty. I just don't. I like guns. I'm a gun nerd. I like how they work. I like the history behind them. For the record, most people that are doing these things are people that were told for their whole lives, you can do whatever you want. So why wouldn't they think that they had no consequences when it comes to buying a gun?
I mean, it makes more sense to do this with young men and guns than with women and healthcare, right? I mean, no woman getting an abortion has ever killed a room full of people in seconds, right?
And of course, yeah, you saw right there. You know, they call it healthcare. Abortion is not healthcare. Abortion is taking the life of an innocent child out of 9 times out of 10 convenience. Now, doesn't guns kill more people than abortions do? Well, that's a great question. Let's take a look at the CDC and their statistics for 2020 when a lot of this stuff was ramping up, gun sales were going up. Take a guess how many abortions, how many child killings happened in the year of 2020. Well, if we take a look at it, 620,327 clinical abortions, clinical child killing happened in the year of 2020. This is from the CDC. Gun deaths, suicide, accidental discharges, things like that. Stuff that's normally not looped into it, but they did anyway for this. 48,830. So saying that it's more dangerous for me to own a gun than your so-called healthcare is a flat-out lie. Because again, I don't want to hurt anybody. I want to protect myself and my family if the time comes. See if I persuaded you. If I didn't, again, you're using your First Amendment right. That's fine. I would leave out the ultrasound one, though. That's that's not good. So for the weapon of the day, it is really, really interesting and cool. It is a Luger 1919, otherwise known as a P08. I've heard both from it. Chambered in 9mm, we're going to show clear, and it's very interesting because it is a toggle lock system. So instead of a recoil system, so we're clear, nothing's in the barrel, we're good. Empty magazine. I'll show you just so it locks up and it'll be a little easier to show. It is toggle locked. Okay, now what is toggle lock? This toggle is what ejects all the rounds and feeds the other ones in from the magazine. And what's really cool is that it's very, very interesting for what it was. It was very sought after. from U.S. soldiers. They thought it was very interesting and neat. This is from World War I generation, so it's before the Walther P08 and in time with the 1911 too. So the Germans had this while Americans had the 1911 from John Moses Browning. You notice too that this is very, very clean, and the reason being that is that it was re-arsenaled. And re-arsenal means it was refinished, redone, everything was cleaned up. It does not mean it'll lose a little bit of its value if it wasn't kept in its original condition. However, this is a lot prettier to look at, and if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of value to preserve the history of it, then it's right for you. As far as actually pulling this toggle lock, it is very stiff. I wouldn't want to do it every single time, but it's really cool. It's just very, very different. You got a nice checkered pattern on your grips, which makes it very easy to hold. As far as the grip angle, you can kind of see how it angles a little bit outward, sort of like a modern rifle pistol grip. It's very comfortable to hold. The sights themselves, you got a nice big front blade with a little notch. The only kind of downside is that when your toggle is up, you lose your back sight because your back sight is way over here. So reacquiring your sight picture was a little hard for the time. And you see I kind of slapped it. I didn't want to get my hands caught in it because I've done that once or twice. But it's got a 4-inch barrel, chambered in 9mm. Very, very nice handgun to shoot. Honestly, it's comfortable, even though you get a lot of push-up because that toggle is flipping back that big mass in your hand. But if you keep a nice, strong wrist, you're going to be fine. It was made by a company before, the Germans started doing a lot of questionable things before World War II. So this never saw World War II. This was only a World War I from the certificate of authenticity from the collector. The serial number, it's 2 digits. It's literally 2 digits on it, which is really, really cool. Most times you see a big fat serial number because of all the stuff in production, but just the little stamp, that's it. Your trigger will pull no matter what you do, whether it's on safe or it's on fire. It's got that little bit of wiggle room. The only thing is that if you see on this side, it'll actually pull out of the way for that toggle to slam forward, chamber the round, hit the firing pin, all that stuff. But when we lock it back, so when it fires, it'll pull back, eject the round, it'll go forward all the way, chambering the next one, and you're ready to go. So that's a full cycling action of this toggle lock system, which is pretty neat for this Luger. And to take it apart, believe it or not, the Germans know a lot about engineering. A basic field strip of this thing is 3 parts. That's it. So the first thing you got to do is you got to take down this takedown pin and throw it down the latch. But before you do that, the reason why we do this, we have to make sure it's clear. So we're going to pull the toggle lock open, make sure nothing's in the chamber. We are good. We will put it off of safe because we're going to hit that firing pin down. So in a safe direction, you know it's unloaded. You checked. Hammer goes down. Now you're good. Because this is the part that kind of sucks. You got to put your hand on the barrel because to get the tension off, you push it back, and now that takedown lever is now down. With that, your side plate comes off just like that. With your side plate off, your entire slide just slides right out just like that. And that's your basic field strip. That's as far as you need to go with a basic field strip. You could take it apart even more. I'm not going to because the tolerances were so tight on these that it rarely ever does need a full disassembly. But to put it all back together, of course, reverse the order. But there is a few things that you have to look out for. So a helpful tip is to take your pistol grip, flip it upside down, and take your slide, flip it upside down. So you're building the gun upside down at this point because if you can see, that toggle is going to need to go in the right place. Not in, if it goes in the wrong place, you're going to get it stuck. It's going to be a headache. No good. So you find it until you just see where it's got to go. It'll slide into its groove. It'll slide in. You can push and you can feel that tension again. If you push and it just slides back, and sometimes the toggle will pop, you got it in the wrong spot. Then to get your side plate back on, you have to put your right end in first, push it in, and now if you try and push that takedown lever in, it's not going to go anywhere, and you're like, what gives? I thought this was it. Nope, you still got to do the questionable push it in, and then when you push it in, your takedown lever slides back in. Easy enough. Now, you just check, make sure you work. Looks good. Safety works. Very nice. Toggle it out. We'll make sure that lockup works just fine. Works just fine. Drop the magazine. Flip it down. And you had a fully field stripped Luger P08 1919 World War I toggle locked semi-automatic handgun. With our Luger handgun, you always need to have a good holster. And that's what I have for you today. This is really cool. However, this is a repop. I got to put it out there because you don't want to confuse people. That's not nice. But this is a Luger leather holster. It's got, obviously holds our Luger just like that. It's made out of genuine leather. And even though it's a repop, this was made in 1934. Okay, so a while after the World War I ended, and World War II was right around the corner. Dumb. It's got room for your tool, your special tool, on the top with like a little flap. This tool was issued out to the soldiers, which used it to take down apart your Luger even further. Just made it a little bit easier. It was issued no matter what you did. The magazines themselves, this one's got a wood grain kind of cool grip. This one is loaded up with some 9 here. Just, you never know. To load up your magazine, it's a little tricky because it's got that spring tension, and you just pull down that toggle all the way down, load up your rounds, and it has a chance to kind of shoot out. Don't worry about it. It happens to everybody. But that's where that another tool happens to be. Right. Well, that's not getting out anywhere. You would take your magazine feeding tool, and you would slide it in. It would lock it in. Then you can load in your rounds, and then your magazines were good to go. We'll just flip that back up. It's got 2 leather straps to thread it through your belt. Other than that, that is our P08 leather holster. Very cool. Very fun. And it looks nice. For a repop, they did a very, very great job. Nice big stitching. Nice solid construction. It's a little bit at a cant, too, which is nice. So, like, if I put my hand in here, like, you'd think it would sit straight up and down like this. But it kind of cants forward a little bit. I'm kind of digging it. Not exactly your quick holster, but it's got your latch. It's got your latch right there, so you can latch it down. No one can get in it. Draw it out. You just pull that buckle back, flip it up, and it would come out with your hand. So, overall, it's a nice combination. I like it. Germans make very, very engineered stuff. They have been known for over-engineering stuff. But, who knows? Maybe over-engineering is not a bad thing when it comes to just nice, simple handguns. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you like this video, do me a favor. Subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and as always, remember these 5 rules. Never point your firearm at anything you don't intend on shooting. Know what is behind your target at all times. Be aware of your surroundings. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And of course, have fun. I'm Ryan Souls for Reload Revelation. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And if you're in the market for this, it's expensive as all get out, but hey, it's a cool piece. Now go catch some R&R.